Okay, welcome. In this deep dive, we're tackling something really fundamental. We're looking at what shapes brain development before birth.
And we're using an abstract from a research article as our guide today. It really zeroes in on maternal factors during pregnancy.
Right, so our mission, really, is to unpack the key takeaways from this abstract. We want to understand how things like, maternal nutrition, infection, stress,
Yeah.
how they might impact the developing brain.
And what else the research points to as playing a role?
Exactly. What else is going on there?
Well, the first thing this abstract really highlights is just how sensitive that early prenatal period is. It describes brain development as this incredibly precise sequence.
Sequence, okay. So
Yeah.
not just getting bigger, but specific steps in a specific order.
Precisely. It's a very finely tuned process. And because it's so intricate, the core idea here is that it's also really vulnerable
Vulnerable
to
how?
the environment inside the uterus. If that environment isn't optimal, it can disrupt these critical, time-sensitive developmental events.
Okay, that makes sense. So the abstract mentions those three: nutrition, infection, and stress. Why those specifically? Are they like the main culprits the research sees?
It seems so. The evidence discussed in the abstract suggests the developing brain might be especially sensitive to those particular factors, maybe more than others. They're seen as significant contributors to what the abstract terms atypical brain development.
Atypical development. And it's a critical window, you're saying.
Yes, a critical window where these factors, which are potentially modifiable, can have really long-lasting effects.
Wow. Okay, so direct maternal health, a direct link to the brain's wiring.
Yeah.
But the abstract goes further, right?
Yeah.
What else does it connect these developmental outcomes to?
Yeah, this is a really important point it raises. The abstract notes that these outcomes, they're not uniform across the board. They often seem to be stratified.
Stratified. Meaning?
Stratified by socioeconomic status or SES.
Ah, right. So the research is actually seeing different patterns depending on someone's socioeconomic background.
That's what the findings suggest, yes. The abstract explicitly mentions that individuals in sort of lower SES brackets often show worse outcomes in these neurodevelopmental areas.
Mhm.
And it connects large-scale population studies, epidemiological evidence with lab research, preclinical work to try and understand the biological reasons why there's this correlation.
Okay, that's quite something. So we've got the direct impact of maternal health, nutrition, infection, stress, and then this clear link to socioeconomic status affecting outcomes even before birth. Is there another layer?
There is one more angle it explores, and it's maybe the most thought-provoking. The abstract also looks into the possibility of transgenerational
It's
effects.
generational.
Yeah.
Effects that carry over beyond just the mother and child.
That's the question it raises exactly. Could adverse prenatal environments may be linked to those persistent socioeconomic disadvantages? Could they potentially influence development, not just for that baby, but maybe even for their future children?
Wow. So it's exploring potential mechanisms for that kind of echo effect.
How these things might ripple across generations.
Okay. So wrapping this up, this deep dive really hammered home how critical that prenatal time is. The developing brain's vulnerability to maternal nutrition, infection, stress. That's clear. And crucially, this quite unsettling link between how development unfolds and socioeconomic status.
Definitely. And maybe a final thought for you, thinking about this abstract mentioning both the SES stratification and these potential transgenerational effects. If factors influencing development before birth factors potentially rooted in societal conditions in SES, maybe even stretching back generations, if these can have such profound, long-lasting impacts, maybe even cross-generational impacts, well, how might that shift our perspective on things like early life interventions or even how we think about the broader societal roots of health and human potential?